is being revered by many great football minds as the next elite NFL quarterback and a possible revolutionizing quarterback in the league, a la Steve Young. So we'll have to keep an eye on that and see if that trade becomes official anytime soon, or if it falls apart, or if he ends up getting traded somewhere else. But then moving on to the Vikings, I already plugged the Vikings digitaldiaries.com and my draft conversation that I'll have this week, so make sure to check that out if you need some NFL draft talk, as I've been diving real deep into that lately here too, refining my player rankings and my team needs and my mock draft, player possibilities for certain teams and all that good stuff. I'm getting real excited for the draft coming up here at the end of the month. And speaking of the draft for the Vikings, we'll touch on that just a second here and move on to other stuff. Finally, a lot of people talking, or at least I'm hearing more people talking about the Vikings drafting wide receiver Michael Thomas, which is, in my opinion, by far the number one receiver the Vikings should have on their board. The consensus number one wide receiver is Laquan Treadwell. As I was looking through everything today, I almost expect Laquan Treadwell to be available at 23 when the Vikings are picking, and it is going to be interesting to see if they pass on him or take him. To me, everything I can see, Michael Thomas is the exact same kind of wide receiver that Laquan Treadwell is, but better in every measurable form you can find. He is bigger. He is faster. He runs better routes, way better routes. He has at least as good hands, if not better hands. His hands are bigger, I know that much. His hands are freakishly huge. The only thing that anyone can say is that Thomas does not have a large body of work at all that we're getting our information from compared to Treadwell. To me, that just means you kind of know more what you're getting with Treadwell, which what we're measuring now is he's a Michael Crabtree, okay? If you draft Laquan Treadwell this year, you're drafting Michael Crabtree. That's what you're doing, okay? If you take Michael Thomas, yeah, you might get a nobody. That's possible. It's possible with anybody. But with Michael Thomas, you're probably getting a Brandon Marshall. You're probably getting a Vincent Jackson. You're probably getting a big Pro Bowl caliber talent receiver that can go up and get the ball in the air and be a possession receiver as well, both red zone and moving the chains over the middle of the field and on the sidelines. Michael Thomas is better at all of it. So to me, the only question I would have would be a character thing. I don't know what Treadwell's character rap is, although I think it's mediocre. And I don't know what Thomas's character rap is at all. So if Thomas has character issues, then I can see you not taking Thomas. But if Michael Thomas's character issues check out and you like him as a person, if you're the Minnesota Vikings, that should be the number one wide receiver on your board, period, in my opinion. Not Laquan Treadwell. And don't be surprised, Vikings fans, if Laquan Treadwell is available at 23, because I feel the teams who are going to draft receiver before the Vikings get to pick are looking for very specific fits and types of wide receivers. And most of those would be speedy, deep threat down the field receivers, not a big, slow, hopefully TO type of guy, which is what Treadwell's kind of, upside, maximum ceiling. Treadwell's ceiling is Terrell Owens. Treadwell's floor or basement is Justin Blackman, or Michael Crabtree before the Oakland mini resurgence here this past year. So Michael Thomas. That's the wide receiver you want the Vikings taking. And whatever our first pick, whenever I should say our first pick is used, whether we stay at 23, whether we trade up, highly, highly unlikely, or whether we trade down, fairly good chance. Not necessarily out of the first round, but maybe even out of the first round. But that first pick, 99% chance that first pick is on a wide receiver. 0.9% chance that it's on a safety, and then 0.1% chance that there is a playmaking outside linebacker that should not still be on the board at all and is just too good for Zimmer to pass up on. But it's highly unlikely that we take a linebacker with our first pick, because even though we could use one more, stud base formation 4-3 starting outside linebacker, we've got not only people that can provide, depth and are serviceable there, but no one in the NFL gets to use a 4-3 base defense all that often in the league anymore. Your base defense in the NFL, in all reality nowadays, is your nickel defense, which only features 2 linebackers, and we've got those 2 linebackers in Barr and Kendricks. So it makes more sense to draft a safety who is going to be on the field in all the formations, in all the different packages and units. I just like saying those words, those football terms, than it does for a role player who's maybe only going to have, his group's only going to be on the field maybe 20 to 30% of games, whereas you go a safety, he's going to be out there 100% of the defensive plays. So, and D lineman, give me a break. We're not taking a D lineman. And O lineman, give me a break. You only get 8 linemen on your final opening day roster. Maybe 9 if you're crazy and moving pieces around a bit. The Vikings already have 9 guys that are not old and on their final leg, that are all ready to play now, with the exception of Sullivan. Sullivan is the only question mark. But even then, we've got someone at his position right there who's awesome in Berger. But we've already got all the offensive line spots filled up. There is no more room to bring in a new offensive lineman. All the starting jobs and backup jobs have the candidates locked into place. So do not expect any Cody Whitehair or any other offensive lineman with the first-round pick or the second-round pick or any freaking picks for that matter. We might pick one offensive lineman between rounds 5 through 7, just for depth and whatever. That will be it, okay? 0% chance Vikings take on offensive linemen with their first pick in this upcoming NFL draft. All right, moving on. Well, I say that let's move it on over now to balls on ice. Let's talk some hockey. We'll start out with a quickie in men's Division I college hockey, where the Frozen Four is taking place right now this weekend. The Final Four, or Frozen Four, semifinals games take place this Thursday here, the first one being at 5 p.m., and that features the number 1 seed Quinnipiac, or however you say it, versus Boston College. And they will be facing, the winner of that game will take on the winner of Denver versus UND, North Dakota, Fighting Sioux, or Fighting Hawks. But they'll always be the Fighting Sioux to me. So we've still kind of got a horse in the race for hockey fans, college hockey fans in the area I live, and I have family up in the UND area. I have family that actually worked in the administration office at UND for over 40 years. But so we're pulling for North Dakota all the way. North Dakota. But Denver, they've both been fairly hot. Quinnipiac, number 1 seed, should beat Boston College fairly easily. But this has been kind of a wacky, anything goes, upsets are expected type of tournament. And BC has the prestige in their program, to pull off something like that. But I'm thinking that it's going to be Quinnipiac versus North Dakota. The North Dakota-Denver game is at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time. These times are Eastern, so 4 o'clock is the first game, and then 7:30 Central Standard Time is the UND game Thursday night, and then the championship game will be on Saturday. Both winners will have Friday off. And needless to say, we're picking UND. That's our pick. That's our team. That's who we're going for. So, all right. Keeping balls on ice, but moving it over to the pro ranks. Now, it is the end of the regular season in hockey. The Minnesota Wild have 1 game left. Some teams have 2 games left. But by the time we are talking sports with each other next week, the NHL regular season is going to be a thing of the past in the rear view mirror. And we can feel somewhat good about that here in Minnesota because our Minnesota Wild are officially in the playoffs. They clinched a berth last night with their loss. Because the Colorado Avalanche, the one team chasing us that we were competing with yet, lost their game as well and became mathematically out of it. They trail us by 5 points, and they only have 2 games to play. So even if we lost our final game and they won their final 2, they would still trail us by 1 point. So the Wild are in the playoffs, which is fantastic news. We're all happy about that. What we're not happy about is how we are entering the playoffs, because last week when we were talking hockey, the Wild were on a 6-game win streak, flying high, playing great, ready for a playoff run. But now, when we're talking hockey this week, the Wild are losers of 4 straight, and literally by every definition of the term, backing their way into the playoffs. Now, I was hoping that we would get 1 or 2 losses this time last week before the end of the regular season, just for kind of a reality and a refocus type of check, because you know there's almost 0% chance that you're not going to lose any game for the rest of the year. Like, you want one more loss to, remind yourself how to bounce back from something like that. So like I said, I was hoping for a loss, maybe 2 in these final 5 games, but not all freaking 5 of them. And that's what we're looking at right now with losing these 4 in a row. It started with a 3-2 loss at home against the Ottawa Senators, which we predicted would be tough and they might win. Then we lost another 3-2 game on the road the very next night at the Detroit Red Wings. Then we had the next day off. Then on the 3rd, we went to the lowly Winnipeg Jets, who are a big rival of ours, though, and always get up for us. And they crushed us 5-1. And then last night, we were at home taking on the San Jose Sharks, who are a playoff team this year, and they embarrassed us 3-0. Shut out. It's the first shutout first time they've been shut out in this losing streak. So that's a little bit alarming. The 3 goals I think you can kind of live with when you're not creating any offense whatsoever and the other team's constantly controlling the puck and in your zone, and there's only so much you can do defensively in those types of situations. So that was one of those games where lack of offense led to difficulty in defense. It wasn't struggling defensively just because you're struggling defensively. It's like, no, the offense is setting you up to struggle and make things tougher. But we do have an extremely winnable game to close out the season here on the 9th, which would be that's the 6th, 7th, 8th. It'd be Saturday. A couple days off here till Saturday. And that final game of the regular season will be at home. So make sure to go check it out, Wild fans, if you can get your hands on some tickets. It's against the Calgary Flames. Again, a game that we should win, a team we should beat. So a perfect tune-up opportunity to get back on playing winning hockey heading in to our first round playoff matchup. So let's take a look then now at the playoff picture and try to see, who the Wild are most likely going to be facing in that first round and what the other potential matchups or likely matchups are going to be. So the way things are standing, the Wild will be the lower seeded of the 2 wild card teams, thus meaning they will take on the top seeded division winner, and that will certainly be the winner of the Central Division. It is just unclear yet whether that winner will be the Dallas Stars or the St. Louis Blues. Both have 2 games remaining to play, both with identical records and identical points at 105. It does appear that the Stars would have the tiebreaker advantage, should they finish with the same point totals. So the Wild getting ready to play the Stars or possibly the Blues. If it's the Blues, you got to feel good about that. We took them on last year in round 1 and we beat them. They lose in round 1 every year, even though they're a top seed every year within the last, 5 years or so. and it just